I don't care who you are. The Time Lord Victorious is wrong. Oh. No, actually, okay, that does sound pretty cool. Hey folks, so there was an announcement of a Doctor Who thing. We don't know exactly what it is. We kind of know what it is. I want to talk through what it is, my thoughts on what we know so far, a little bit of speculation, and also I'll say emphatically what it isn't, just before anybody in my comments tries to spin it as something. So, the Time Lord Victorious is some form of multi-platform story. I'm actually going to read directly from what went up on DoctorWho.tv. A very similar announcement also went up on Big Finish. Time Lord Victorious will be set within the Dark Times, capital D, capital T, at the start of the universe, when even the Eternals were young. It features the 8th, 9th, and 10th Doctors traveling across space and time as they defend the universe from a terrible race, as well as 3 Doctors, companion Rose Tyler, and monsters including the Daleks and the Ood will feature, plus more to be revealed over the coming months as products are announced. Partners involved in the project include Penguin Random House, BBC Books, Doctor Who Magazine, Titan Comics, Escape Hunt, Big Finish, and Immersive Everywhere. So this is a brand new multi-platform Doctor Who story told across audios, novels, comics, vinyl, digital, immersive theater, escape rooms, and games. What? So, whatever this thing is, it's ambitious. However, conspicuous by its absence is the mention of television. So, the first thing I think we need to assume is that for all the stuff being involved in this is not anything to do with the show as it is being aired on TV. This is not a special. This is not going to impact the ongoing Whittaker and Chris Chibnall era of the show. This is independent of that, which then brings us to, let's look at those names involved. The 10th Doctor, the 8th Doctor, the 9th Doctor, and Rose Tyler. So, 8th Doctor, 9th Doctor, Rose Tyler, they have been used fairly regularly in various extra media. You know, novels, they've all done Big Finish. I mean, God, Paul McGann's Doctor practically exists almost entirely in Big Finish. And, you know, David Tennant's done Big Finish, and so has Rose. Christopher Eccleston never has. Now, they have not officially announced yet what's going to land where and what parts go anywhere else. So, it is possible. Let's accept this. It is possible that Christopher Eccleston himself is not going to be involved in only the character of the 9th Doctor is. How does that work? Well, some of the media that they mentioned, specifically things like comics and novels, they could use the 9th Doctor, his likeness as a character, and not have to involve Christopher Eccleston specifically as a person in order to do so. So if the 9th Doctor's part in this story is covered in novels, or is covered in comics, or anything that is a medium that doesn't require his active participation, that's possible, and it will also be very disappointing. And if that is the case, I hope they clarify it soon. Because otherwise, the longer they wait to drop that, the more I'll be disappointed. That having been said, I'm inclined to think that this means Christopher Eccleston might be making his debut as the 9th Doctor on Big Finish in the audio dramas for Doctor Who. I've been kind of holding on to this possibility because before everything went to hell, I went to the Gallifrey 1 Doctor Who convention in Los Angeles, and Christopher Eccleston was there. It was his first time going to a Doctor Who dedicated, Doctor Who specific convention. And he was pretty open about having been a little bit nervous going, but that he felt wonderfully welcome there. I got to meet him briefly, but I got to get my picture with him. I got his autograph. He seemed really thrilled at the reception that he got there. Got the entire crowd in the biggest hall all sang happy birthday to him on that Sunday morning because it was his birthday, the last day of the con. And he seemed really delighted, really genuinely so. And I think he has been warming up to coming back to some extent in Doctor Who. Now, we still don't have all the details in the world about his leaving and his very extended absence. The fact that he didn't come back for things like the 50th anniversary. And I've done videos talking about that before. But if there are issues for him on a personal level about coming back and playing the part in front of the camera, a lot of that gets assuaged if he gets to do it in audio. That means he's not having to physically embody the role. He's not having to be on a set that maybe reminds him of a time that he didn't particularly like. He gets to just be the character in front of a microphone, which I think he'd be more than capable of doing. I think it's distinctly possible that we're going to get that. And I'm crossing my fingers that we will get to hear Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor debuting in the Time Lord Victorious, whatever it is. I'll get to a little bit of speculation on that, not a ton. But that will then become the start of Ninth Doctor stories on Big Finish. How amazing would that be? So, one last thing before I throw out any ideas about what I think this is going to involve, as far as any possible stories go. What this is not, and you don't need to have inside information, because I don't, to realize this. You just have to think it through. This is not an attempt to re-ingratiate fans in the wake of Series 12. Series 12 did not have great ratings. However you feel about it as a series, that's a fact. The reasons why it didn't have great ratings, those are also up for debate. But the fact that the ratings were not great, that is a fact. No doubt, BBC and anyone who has a stake in the Doctor Who license would like to buoy things a bit. However, there is no way that this is an apology or an attempt to course correct or fix or do anything in any way related to Series 12. How do I know that? Well, they couldn't announce the various companies and people involved in this if contracts weren't already signed. And they couldn't have contracts signed unless everything had been negotiated, scheduled had been worked out, licenses have been agreed upon. Series 12 ended in February, I think. February, early March. It ended just a couple of months ago. The amount of time involved to get everybody on board and to get everything set up and signed off and agreed to, and especially with the actors involved, because let's just, for the moment, like even if Christopher Eccleston doesn't come back, David Tennant's done Big Finish, Billy Piper's done Big Finish, Paul McGann's done Big Finish, and they've mentioned Big Finish. So some of these people are coming in to do audio. They have to be available. Their schedules have to be clear. That has to be worked out. That has to be negotiated. That does not get thrown together in a couple of months in a panic because a lot of people were annoyed at the Timeless Children. That did not happen. There is no possible way, because this would have had to have been conceived, organized, agreed to, agreed on, scheduled, and signed off on before they could make this announcement. So, I don't want to hear that. Not in my comments and not anywhere else. So, what do I think is actually going to happen with this? Well, obviously the Time Lord Victorious is a very specific callback to The Waters of Mars and David Tennant overstepping. The Doctor messing with time to a degree that he knows he shouldn't. So that's an obvious callback. You look at the image that was put out, and we have the 10th Doctor in Time Lord robes, looking a little Rassilon-y. One has to wonder if this is ultimately going to be some sort of either alternate, or at the end of whatever it is, it will be in some way undone and reversed time bubble sort of thing. Normally that sort of thing annoys me because it's like, have the gumption to do it in canon and let the effects play out. But given that it's not happening on the show, it needs to happen in some way in a vacuum, because the show is unlikely ever to acknowledge directly whatever it is. So it can't completely upend in a lasting way these characters or what we understand about their history and how things happened with them. So certainly the name and the look implies David Tennant went off the deep end and tried to just wrench control of time itself, which obviously never happened. But if it did, and somehow ultimately got resolved by having to undo and erase all of that, I'd be okay with that in this instance. I'm not okay with the show doing something like that, because then you just didn't have the guts to stick by your storyline. When it's got to be something that cannot impact canon in the same way, like Big Finish, comics, novels, whatever, I'm way more accepting of something being much more closed off and complete and not having long-term impacts like that. I would be okay with that. So my immediate gut instinct is Tennant, the 10th Doctor, overstepped, went off the deep end, possibly even coming out immediately after the Waters of Mars thinking, well, that didn't work. I'll try again. And still messing with time to the point that the 8th Doctor, the 9th Doctor, and Rose have to somehow stop him or fix him or correct it or whatever it is. That's my gut instinct. I do have to wonder if to a certain extent it's almost too obvious, because between that title and David Tennant, the 10th Doctor, looking the way he does in the image, if that's just way too obvious, and Big Finish has gotten pretty good about throwing curveballs these days. And again, I keep citing Big Finish because I have to assume that they are going to be the backbone of this. Because way more than the comics, way more than the novels, Big Finish is basically considered by most fans the second highest tier of canon behind the show. There's the show, there's Big Finish, novels, comics, maybe they're even at the same level. And then anything else, video games, theater experience, escape rooms, etc. And that also means that I expect things like what they mentioned, games, escape rooms, theaters, that's going to be very sort of off to the side. It's not going to be a case of it won't make sense unless you also experience that. It's not going to be that. For my money, the core of it, whatever it is, will be a Big Finish box set. And there will be novels possibly detailing additional characters' points of view, comics fleshing out certain side characters, or maybe a prequel and an epilogue comic kind of thing. And whatever the theater and escape room are just going to be fun in that setting, bits of that story thing, but they're not going to be massively important. But whatever it is, I'm going to be keeping an eye out on it. We're going to supposedly be getting more announcements in the lead up. September. That's when this is supposed to come out. Which timing-wise makes a pretty decent amount of sense. It's after the summer. It's in the fall when a lot of new shows start up. Doctor Who itself won't be starting up again until we get the next special, which is going to be either at the end of the year or the start of next year. I don't know if they've said whether it's a Christmas special or another New Year's. But anyway, it would be a really good sort of way to start gearing people up for more Doctor Who again. This sounds really intriguing. This sounds really cool. And I cannot wait to find out what it is. Time Lord Victorious, what do you think it's going to be? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. All the stuff. Like, subscribe, share this around, check out my Patreon, buy my book, etc., etc., etc. Or don't. Don't sweat it if you don't want to, because at the end of the day, you're the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.